Hey, Kylen.
Hey, Connor.
It's been a while since we've done this. We've been taking a break for quite a bit, and I think people are really want to hear what we did at GenCon.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. And well, since we've been to GenCon last year, we don't really have that like first timers perspective that we did last year that you could listen to in episode 7 with Osqueeve. So as I guess is a tradition with our con episodes,
We need a virgin.
we need to sacrifice a virgin.
Can I volunteer myself?
Wow, speaking of virgin.
Hello, it's me, the Indoor Adventurer, resident virgin on this channel. What's up?
Hi!
Why?
Special guest tonight.
Special guest, just back a month ago from his first time at GenCon.
It feels okay. So even though it has been a month, it feels like time doesn't mean anything post Gen Con. Like that week after was basically like its own mini month, and then the week after was like half a month, and now it actually feels like a real people month has gone by during the time since I have been to Gen Con. But like so many things have happened in my meat space life as well since leaving Gen Con that it's like,
oh my
that was
god.
a different timing. That was a completely different time.
Yeah, both of y'all have lots of stuff that happened between Gen Con and now, some of which sort of explains why we haven't been able to record an episode since.
Do we want to like talk about that, or do we want to like gloss over that?
We can talk about that as much as you want to.
Look, let's give the meat space recap.
Me.
So I can dish the meat on the first bit of pre-Gen Con, which was
Flip those burgers. Dish that meat.
This is the juiciest burger that happened to me, which was I was at my desk and a dear friend of a channel's JD Lady ended up sending
friend of the channel, JD Lady.
JD Lady's the best. She's been here since the beginning. Friend and co-player alike. JD's great. She sent a article that was about a comic book shop owner and how he, just by interacting with this young girl who came into the shop with her mom on a daily basis to just read comics, he ended up like making an impact. And how it was about like, even though he was working retail, he didn't really care about it because he enjoyed being able to make a difference in the community. And I cried at work that day because I realized that my job meant nothing to anybody, including myself. And then I had a coworker that same day ask me, how do you sit for 8 hours a day and just be like, what actually brings you happiness? And my response was, I like my cat. I do D&D streams, but like afterwards I was like, oh God, I am unhappy. And that happened to me on like a Tuesday at 8 a.m. So I had the rest of the week to just be like, I'm miserable, aren't I? Fuck me, I'm miserable. This is awful. I'm in a bad spot. And so then I told myself, okay, when I get back from Gen Con, I'm going to start actively looking for a job. And then while I was at Gen Con, one of the things that also put it into perspective was that my lovely partner pointed out that they had not seen me that consistently happy in the last 3 years. So I definitely knew that I needed a change. So I quit my job. I stopped working in the software test industry after 5 years. And now I'm going back to retail because it honestly made me happy.
Woo! Woo!
So that is my meat space catch up, is that I said, fuck it, I hate this job. So I quit that job. And then I got a job that's honestly, It's a dream job. I'm gonna be selling secondhand video games, so I never have to deal with new releases and people being like, "Why don't you have them?" Because it's specifically a secondhand retail shop,
Yeah.
and they've been around for over 20 years, so they are an established part of the community. When I went and helped out of the like 65 people that were there, maybe 5 of them weren't already in the computer system in some form or fashion. Like all but 5 were repeat customers.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm excited to get to know these people, to just like, hello, greetings, and welcome to the Shop of Wonders. And other cool thing is that apparently that shop is near a trading card / board game / minis shop that is planning on moving, and the owner of the shop that I will be working at has always wanted to do like card games and board games and tabletop games. And during my interview, I got asked, do you know anything about card games or tabletop RPGs? And I was like, have you come to the right fucking person, my friend?
Yes, I do know something about those.
In fact, you can see exactly how much I know about those things Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Just let me chill out right now.
Plug.
No, so that was my meat space catch-up, but Kylen, your meat space catch-up I feel is like way more engaging. Especially because these viewers on this show know you more than they know me.
Basically, I had a lot of big life events occur all at once. I had a crash course through life this past month or so. So I graduated college for what is hopefully the last time.
Woo!
Yes, confetti, champagne, bottle pop, all that good stuff. And
Sober Connor can't put in that many gifts at once.
Sober Connor, try.
Look, I can help. We can Wonder Twins this. It'll be fine.
Sober Connor, sober indoor.
Wonder Twins powers go. Form of God. I'm so fucking tired.
Indoor, I died 12 times to the Blair Witch today. I didn't need you to just nail that home for me.
So.
But yes, you graduated.
I graduated, and then I went on my little trip that I always do at the end of the semester, where I go and visit my family and friends because I live in a different part of the country than they do. And somewhere along the way, my longtime partner, big friend of the channel, EJ the Gray, decided that he wanted to pop the question. So, your girl, Kyle with an N, is now Kyle with a ring, and I will be getting married in the not too distant future. So that's exciting.
Shoo, girl. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love being able to tell all of my friends congratulations whenever shit like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you this at least like 4 times, but like, yeah.
Well, do you want to tell me congratulations one more time?
Yes.
Because I also very recently just got offered a big girl job. My first post-college job with an actual salary that is not minimum wage. So
we got Kyle with a degree. We got Kyle with a ring. And now we also got Kyle with medical benefits.
Yes! All I've ever wanted.
This is the trifecta, clearly.
So we're kind of putting a Triforce with those 3 things.
You got all 3 pieces of the Triforce. Now you get a wish.
Is that wish going to be dental?
Fingers crossed. Yeah, so that's why we haven't recorded an episode of Let's Talk About It for a hot minute. Because I've been busy. But
that's fair.
Now we're less busy. So here we are. Together. The Triforce. So now, let us perhaps talk about it.
Let's talk about GenCon.
Indoor is vibrating.
Indoors vibrate profusely. Indoor, this is your first time to GenCon.
I came back from the war. From the war of GenCon, and I have different eyes. I literally did, because I lost my glasses during the trip there. However, the entirety of GenCon this is the greatest thing that has happened in general for the last, I want to say, like, give or take 5 years. Well, I'll say 3 years, just in case my partner's listening. So, GenCon was a thing that I was aware of, but in terms of actually, like, oh, maybe I'll go this year, it wasn't really on my radar that much. Like, I saw people going to GenCon, and I thought to myself, wow, that seems pretty neat. But it wasn't until I was watching a No Man's Sky stream that Jordan with the PH silent of Forgotten Realms Explain was running, and he was several whiskeys deep at the time, and he was just like, Indoor, come to GenCon. We can hang out. It'll be awesome. You seem like a really cool guy. I want to meet you. And I was like, oh, he wants to meet me. I'm going to GenCon. Like, that was like the determining factor, because I went to PAX Unplugged last year, and PAX Unplugged was great. I had a wonderful time. I met a lot of the people, a lot of the casts of different D&D podcasts that I really enjoyed. I got to have a moment of just feeling very small next to Jerry Holkins, but that's just because he's so nice. And you just can't help but just feel really nervous, because he's just a smaller guy, like portly. You can tell he likes beer, but he's just really nice. So it's one of those, like, can I take a picture? You seem really cool. Sign this, please. But that was PAX Unplugged. We're speaking GenCon. So,
sorry, I do need to interject.
Yes.
You said you were feeling very small next to Jerry Holkins, and
he's a tiny man.
Indoor, I met you at GenCon for the first time, and I have trouble seeing you feel small in front of anybody.
Oh my god, Indoor is such a tall boy.
Indoor is a long man.
I am 6'3". There is only one other person on our group of friends that I know is actually taller than I am, and that is our dear friend Lazy Bones, who is a confirmed 6'7".
Oh my god.
He is a monster boy.
Oh my god.
Like, when I have to look up to people, it's like, holy shit, okay. You're large. I get, but like, I can never, it's a matter of perspective, because like, I don't know what it's like meeting me from your guys' angles.
Tall.
Just, hello. Like,
well, it's just another reason why we look up to you.
Oh, I'm basically a furbolg. I'm very nice, I'm very wise, and I'm taller than you would think.
Yeah.
But anyway, how was your first time at GenCon?
Oh my god. So it was meeting everybody that I have become friends with since starting the channel for over a year and a half. Meeting them in person. I've met RJ in person. I've met Danae and Tyler in person before, but this was everybody. This was LB Hackemup. This was Graybeard. This was the two of you. This was Ethan. This was even Tankenstein. Yeah. Being able to meet Tank was super cool.
Yeah.
Being able to see and just exist around so many people that I have come to know, that I've come to appreciate. Just that bit was already like, okay, plane ticket, worth it. Like, ticket to the con, worth it. I got to stay at LB Hackemup's house with Graybeard. I got to go into Graybeard's lair, and I got to hit the guy in the face that makes the dong noise whenever a new follower gets hit. He ended up giving me it's either a dong or a bong. You got to take your pick on which one it sounds like, but either or, it's wood on metal. He gave me a Hellboy tabletop RPG. Graybeard did, just because he was like, I'm never going to play this. You like Hellboy? Here, take it. Super great people. And that was day 0, because I woke up on Thursday because I, had obviously done the thing that I would proceed to do all of GenCon, which was not sleep very much and drink far too much for the amount that I slept. So Wings and Tyler, Frothy Inferno on Twitter and on our Discord, they wanted to go to an escape room on Thursday morning, and there were too many people for everybody to fit in one car, especially for me being a long boy, so I had to make special accommodations, and I ended up going on a 4-hour car ride from Kalamazoo, Michigan to Indianapolis, and then as soon as I got into Gen Con, they left. They left because they had an event, and so I was stranded alone at Gen Con. My first Gen Con being like, this is how I die. There are so many people around me. I guess I'll go into the exhibitor floor. And that's when I posted on Twitter being like, I am alone. Somebody please help. And I ended up meeting up with Connor, and I ended up meeting up with Ethan. And yes, all the pew-pews at you. As we walked to the farthest wall and then down, and still to this day, so Gen Con, to put it into perspective, PAX Unplugged has like 400 booths. Gen Con had 2,700 booths. That's quite a difference in terms of space. Also, to put it into perspective, the number of people that attended Gen Con on Saturday was close to 70,000 because they sold out of all of the passes that could possibly be bought for Saturday. My hometown is less than 2,000 people. So I got to see like 600 times the number of people from my hometown in maybe a 10-block radius. But it was way easier to talk to any of the people at Gen Con than it was to talk to the people at my hometown. But that's small town living, and also a topic for an entirely different segment. But
we might talk about that later.
That's totally fine. Like, going to Gen Con, hanging out with Cyber, because as soon as we started walking, we went around the back, and then so it's basically separated into tabletop RPGs as a strict setting, and then on the other side is like miniatures and add-ons and other things that you could be interested in, such as like coffee, which was a neat thing, which apparently the people had a really difficult time getting their coffee booth set up because they couldn't offer free samples of the coffee. They could only do smells. And there was already a stink against that, but they had like 5 booths set up. So what does it really matter? But the left-hand side was strictly add-ons, minis, everything else that you would want. Being a first-timer and being used to places where there's only one booth for one item, when you walk around and you see what you later realize is the 5th Chessex booth that you have walked by, but you're fairly certain, no, there's only like one Chessex booth. Okay, there's 2. Okay, there's 3. And then next thing you know, you're like, I have no fucking clue where I am. Okay, there's Game Space. Game Space is good. And you went there. The other cool thing about my Gen Con travel is that our hotel, our motel that we stayed at, the Super 8, a huge group of us were staying there. It was, I think we had like 12, 13 people in total between our groups, all just staying at this Super 8, which was
staying at this haunted ass Super 8.
Haunted as fuck! Super haunted!
Like, are you talking about the Super Rave Motel?
Yes! The one that you have to pass by a werewolf forest and a graveyard in order to access. And even then,
the lights are blinking like creepy.
Even then, the card that you picked up is bad. It's not going to open the door.
But still, better than the hotel I was staying at last year.
Oh, true.
Oh, I don't even know. Look, apparently from what I heard, the continental breakfast only had one continent, and that was Sadvia. Like, just like a poor time, had by all, breakfast sponsored by the Isle of Misfit Toys.
Oh, the breakfast, you can get a bagel, and it was fine.
Yeah, I went there once, and I just shoved my mouth full of powdered donuts before I called a lift.
Well, as long as there was black coffee with a little bit of cream, I'm fine. I was going to go to Starbucks anyway.
It was pretty sad, though, not gonna lie.
So the coffee shop that I ended up going to quite frequently was Bee Coffee. And that was because they had a fast lane for a simplified menu. And then there was the slow lane for if you wanted like a bagel or if you wanted a latte versus like, do you want drip coffee? Yes or no? And you're like, oh, 1 sugar. That's not an option. Yes or no? Like, okay. Like that coffee place, the marketing was really cool for it. They had a lot of neat stuff, but overall, I'm spoiled with coffee out in the Pacific Northwest. That's about it. But like overall, first day at GenCon was, I would say, an incredible success. Thursday, I honestly didn't have a whole lot. I got told of the block party, which I didn't know was a thing, but upon going outside, the city of Indianapolis had shut down an entire city block for specifically food carts, a beer garden, a bunch of other shit, and that is for all other Gen Con first-timers, go to the food carts.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the food carts, because they have a number of brew pubs that are around Gen Con. That is the same menu, the same drinks, everything. Like, you're really going to a brew pub so that way you can get beer. But at that case, just go to one of the random stores near you, buy some beer, go back to your hotel, play some board games because you're going to have more fun that way. And then if you go to the food carts, you can get like a quart of mac and cheese that is way too filling for like $8.
True.
Value Town. And that is something that I am always about is Value Town. But first day, so originally in my Gen Con plan, I had 2 panels about the history of the Drow. And I was really excited for it. And that was my first instance of a panel being canceled.
Oh.
Yep. I had signed up for the past history of the Drow and then the recent history of the Drow, and both of those panels were being run by the same people on 2 different days, and they ended up getting cut.
Do you know why?
I think it was just because they couldn't get the people that they wanted for the panel to show.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, they signed up for the panel, they got approved for the panel, and then they were like, hey, we need to pay for our plane ticket and our travel costs to get to Gen Con, and they weren't able to do so, so they just had to cancel the panels. And I didn't get any general ed passes for it because they were free seminars. But the only thing that I had on Thursday was the first time that I had played a game at Gen Con, because up until this point I have just been wandering around the exhibit hall looking lost as hell, seeing people that I barely recognize from like anything but the pseudo torso up, and also just spending, I thought I was prepared for funds at Gen Con, and then the first day I went through like half of my budget within the first hour and a half that I was there, and then realized, oh fuck, now I have to carry all of these things. Why didn't I wait until later? So that's, again, another tip. Wait until, like, it's going to sound really appealing. Just buy everything at the very beginning. You dumb, don't do that. You're going to have to carry it the entire day. And that's what I had to do. So I ended up getting from the Indie Games Network booth a game called Threadbare, which is a quote-unquote stitch punk tabletop RPG.
My favorite genre of music.
So like sort of Little Big Planet?
Toy Story, but meets the Isle of Misfit Toys, where you are playing as discarded playthings. You are a creature that has been sent to defend against the Nightmare Realm, and the Nightmare Realm is Sid's creations from Toy Story 1. The most fucked up thing is that the book has a build guide for making toy monstrosities in the back. It's like, you want to use a lot of glue on this weird Barbie's head that you've severed so that way the hair can look like dreads. Okay, you want to mount it on a motor so that way this little eye ends up glowing after you've removed the eyeball from the socket. And it's like, you didn't need to include any of that in this book, but you did. Here's $20. Like, yep, you sold me. I'm down for it. And the other game that I got, which was bit of indoor lore. My background in the meat space is that in college I was a history major, and I got my minor in social sciences with a focus in sociology, because I didn't want to put in the effort of getting a sociology degree, but I still was at the idea that I wanted to teach it eventually. So if I specialized in sociology, then I'd be able to do so. Either way, there was a tabletop game that I encountered called Never Going Home, which is the most difficult game to run on stream from what I have seen. Because this game is a World War I Eldritch horror tabletop RPG.
Ooh.
That utilizes a deck of cards for quite a bit. That deck of cards is the reason why it is impossible to play online, from what I have been able to look at, because everybody is drawing from the same deck of cards. So missions have to be quick, but you still have to get people to draw from cards. And then there are situations, because it is an Eldritch horror game, where you as the player can end up encountering a segment where you get a point of corruption. Because when you draw a card from the deck, when you are drawing for corruption, if it is a red card, no points of corruption. If it is a black card, okay, that's a point of corruption. And what you do is that you look at it, you set it face down, slide it to the dungeon master / storyteller. They look at it, and then they keep it in a deck behind the GM screen. So they are the only two who know what the actual result of that card was, which again makes it difficult to play online, because how do you then slide that card back to the dungeon master without all of your other party members finding out about it?
Yeah, that would be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Unless you had some separate program and maybe you private message on Zoom. But again, difficult, not one integrated program.
Yeah. Not D&D Beyond overlay on Twitch integrated levels, clearly. But this game was, I feel like, incredibly imaginative. The artwork is gorgeous. And overall, I think that for a standalone system, because it was a Kickstarter game, they're not working from a company standpoint of Shadowrun or Monty Cook's Numenera system or D&D, where they have the funding to then just make a secondary system. They made a new game based off of that system that they're going to be releasing later, which is about the fall of Rome. So once again, you have this history tabletop RPG fantasy, which me as a person is oh, fuck me up. I want it. Give me this weird history. I'm all for it. But like,
Give it.
from grabby hands, yes, please. I want. But like from a showrunner perspective, borderline impossible to run on the show. Which
until we have the funding to like build a studio and actually be able to drive people in.
Where would we live, Cyber? Where would we live with this fantastical studio? You're in Texas, RJ's in New York, LB's in Michigan, Danae's in Florida. Like, are we just gonna go to Nebraska, blast an entire fucking cornfield aside and be like, this is the promised land? Because I will not live in Nebraska. Our studio will not exist there. I swear to
Welcome to Games in the Corn.
Welcome to Nights in the Cornfield. I don't want it. But yeah, so I wrapping it all, tying in. The game that I ended up playing was a game called Wizard's Bluff, which was very interesting. Each player had a set deck of cards, and then you would try and convince somebody that you had a higher number. And that was it. You just had to convince somebody that you had a higher number in the cards that you had, but it was like some of the cards had mythical beasts on it, like a dragon and a unicorn. But oh, if you played the snake card released a magical plague and killed all of these other things. And like there was a subset of rules to this very standard game. And I think that was the overlying point of enjoyment I had with playing games at GenCon, was that I knew these games already. Like one of my favorite games I played on the last day, and it was Uno. Like you had classes. There was a cleric, there was a paladin, there was a barbarian, there was a rogue, and each one of them interacted with the Uno cards differently because some classes could only get benefits if the last card revealed was an odd number or an even number. Other classes could only get benefits if it was a yellow card, if it was a green card, if it was a red card. Like, it was Uno. But you had health, and you had classes, and you had abilities, and it was a game that you already knew that had been altered to make it more interesting.
Interesting.
Huh.
Interesting.
And that was kind of a running theme, because again, like Wizard's Bluff is that is you just playing bullshit with your friends. Or when I was going to summer to a summer church camp, we called it boot shoe, because you called BS on somebody, but you didn't want to swear in front of the eyes of God.
Of course.
So obviously. So when you are playing BS with somebody, it is, okay, I place this card out. I don't think that you have as much. So it's like pseudo poker rules. But what you could do is that you could bet on colors. And you would bet which color would win. And depending on who had what out, like if I won, okay, green won. So you could bet that green would win even after you've placed your own card out. Like you don't have to place out cards that you feel like, oh, I have to bet on myself every time. Which adds a layer to the bluff, because if you're like, oh, here's this thing, here's this card out, I'll bet on green to win. And green's just like, I don't feel like I played anything good though. If they're expecting me to play some, I'm going to bet on red. And red's like, I have a card that's face value is 3. I'll bet on me. Fuck it. Like you don't have the possibility of retreating. You can't like be like, oh, okay, I have pulled out of the bet. You have to go through with the bet.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an added layer of subterfuge, and the thing is that it was a bluffing game that you didn't want to stab the person who betrayed you. If you have ever played the Battlestar Galactica game, you start off the game with a traitor. And then that traitor does their absolute best to go through the rest of the game to make you believe they are not the traitor. Somebody else is the traitor. So you go through this game, and by the end of it, you're like, you fucking played me. Like it becomes more of like a personal affront Whereas in this game, it's just like, no, you tricked me. Good job. And that's it. And like, it was complex, and I feel like their Kickstarter's coming out in November. As somebody who enjoys making games, I feel like it could be shaved down a little bit to make it more accessible, but at the same time, they're doing something that's fun. They're doing something that's neat. And I like what they're doing. So if you see a Kickstarter for Wizard's Bluff, I would recommend checking that out.
Yeah.
And then, so that was my first day at GenCon.
So my first thing, I had two things Thursday morning. I started by playing like D&D, the Red Box edition at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
My first time playing anything besides D&D 5e, which, if you want to compare the two, totally different experiences all the way. Like, so it was DM'd by the lovely, effervescent Rich Possessy from
At the channel.
Shelf Gaming, BBB, who is known for loving to run people through the beat grinder when it comes to classic D&D. But yeah, it's a totally different experience. Everything feels like a death trap. Don't get attached to your characters. It's so likely that you'll die to a rat in the corner. But, however, I ended up playing a dwarf. I had good enough stats where I could class into a dwarf, because that's how things worked back then. Elf and dwarf were their own class. So I was the dwarf, and I somehow had bad stats but a lot of money, so I got all the items. But that means I was good for whatever sort of situation. I was Inspector Gadget. If we needed to poke around for traps, I had my 10-foot pole to detect snakes or what have you. No, it was a ton of fun. I actually ended up making it out okay. No character death, which is a huge accomplishment, I feel like, in that edition of D&D. We did have someone else at the table who ended up having to roll a new character, but it was a ton of fun. Totally different experience, more so focused on dungeon crawl than, good character building RP. But I think if you approach the two editions as just like almost like totally different games, and it's like, these are both fun in their own right. It depends on what you want in that moment. So that's how I started out my first game of GenCon 2019. Was dungeon crawling.
Well, you also had a fun experience in line, though, didn't you? Like standing at like 4 in the morning.
Yes. Oh my God. That night we were in the fucking line for a will call tickets for an hour and a half, and then there were these two drunk guys in front of us while we were in the line. And one of them kept playing fucking music out of his phone, like fucking Crazy Train, and it's 3 in the morning.
Or the fucking Six Flags.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember hearing about.
Yes! And then fucking, like, they were trying to talk to us, and I wasn't into it because I was tired. And, they were, like, these middle-aged guys, and this guy's like, and I'm, like, looking at my phone, and I kind of look at something that, like, makes me smile, because, as you do. And he's just like, oh, what are you laughing at? And I'm just like, oh, my phone, you fucking weirdo. That wasn't pleasant. But once I finally got back to the hotel room and got 3 hours of sleep.
Now, to be honest, going through the will call at 3 in the morning, drunk off your ass, not the worst way to do it.
Yeah, maybe they had the right strats.
So they had the right strats.
Execution was poor.
No, it's just we were too sober to deal with it.
Too tired, too sober. But luckily, that was only an hour and a half of We Like to Party. And then, what else did we do Thursday? We played Dead of Winter.
Yeah, Dead of Winter was my first thing
that game.
Thursday. Dead of Winter, run by the wonderful Katrina, also associated with High Shelf Gaming. PvP, friend of the channel, Katrina.
We did.
That was a game very, very similar to Zombicide, that board game, except you can also get frostbite because it's cold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We did potentially the worst at that game that you could possibly be.
Yeah, we fucked up on the first round. We did two of us died. 2 or 3 of us died. Like one of our, because we each had 2 characters to start out with.
Okay.
One of our characters died, got bit, and every time you die, your survivor encampment's morale goes down, and we dropped to 0 real fast.
I think we ended up losing the game on the end of the second round.
Yeah, it was early.
So this game was scheduled to go for an hour, and I think we were done in
20 minutes.
Yeah. And it was just the concept of the game was so fun, but we just ended up not having very good luck at all. Getting the worst possible rules, getting situation cards that were not in our favor. We did not do well at all. I mean, luckily, we still, I think, still had a fun time.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of us kind of knew each other. And
yeah. So it was you and Ethan got tickets immediately.
Yes.
And then I was able to get a ticket because somebody else dropped out.
Yeah.
And I was able to get a ticket before we went into Will Call, which I was super happy with because I really wanted to get into Katrina's game because I love Katrina. She's wonderful.
What a great human being. And we also met at Black Market Bingo on Twitter, who was a former alpha mod. She was also in that game as well as another individual. So, it was a lot of fun. It was just we do not have good luck at all. But luckily, Katrina explained the game in a way that, okay, I understand the basic rules of this game.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't get to play it for very long.
But yeah, we understand the game. We're just bad at it. Or we just fucked up this time.
Yes, but it was also a luck aspect.
Yeah. Yes, that was one thing. Did you do anything else on Thursday before High Shelf?
No, that was it for me.
So I'm pretty sure I had the rest of Thursday booked because my previous year at GenCon, which was my first year, I did nothing but panels. And it was a lot of great panels, with personalities from Maze Arcana, a Matt Colville talk, which I have feelings about.
The infamous Matt Colville talk.
The 4-hour Critical Role autograph line. It was just a lot of panels and events and stuff. But this year I wanted to play games. Specifically, I wanted to play game systems that I already own but have never played.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest of my Thursday was spent playing Numenera and Vampire the Masquerade.
How was that?
Well, let me tell you. To the beginning, I was really anxious about playing Vampire the Masquerade, and I was really excited to play Numenera.
Okay.
And I believe we started with Vampire the Masquerade. Very first time playing it, I knew about the World of Darkness and its fandom, and I was concerned about who would be showing up to this game and how it would go.
Mm-hmm.
Especially me having my edgelord phase, but never playing Vampire or anything like that. but I knew that like, hey, I want to show up, and I wanted to play the Vampire Clan Gangrel, which are the like shapeshifter
woo.
ones. So I was playing this vampire named Derek. He was a Gangrel 13th generation, which means like he was like the very last bloodline or like generation of vampires that could get into the Camarilla, which was like the super frou-frou vampires that control everything. And we had to destroy a werewolf monument that in Chicago because this was part of the Chicago by Night thing. They were introducing like a new vampire bloodline. We released a blood demon that was like trying to like suck the blood out of our bodies to like run off and whatever, and we just had to deal with that and make our way into the Camarilla. And it was a good time. And I know a lot more about Vampire. I think it's a really cool system, and I had a really great time doing it.
What edition of Vampire were you playing?
5th edition.
Okay. Is that the most recent one?
Yes.
All right.
So I didn't kickstart it, but I had like ordered the like big edition of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition on BackerKit.
Okay.
The big expensive edition.
That are probably the thick edition, yeah.
Yeah. And I have the books. They're just really hard to read. And they're really hard to digest.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because the one of the last times I played Vampire was legitimately 7 years ago. And I have played Vampire also recently. It was not 5th edition, but it has been one of those systems where I have a very difficult time getting into it. When I was playing Hunter the Vigil, which also took place in the World of Darkness setting, but it was like, again, like 7 years ago. I don't remember the edition that it was. I had a very difficult time with it. So is 5th edition like simplified? Because I know they had like a melee skill and also a skill for doing like, okay, easiest way. Are brawl and melee different skills or similar skills?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, I feel like brawl would be like fisticuffs and melee would be like melee weapons.
Why wouldn't they be the same thing?
Because there's a difference between punching somebody and stabbing somebody.
That is actually one of the things that I really am not a huge fan of the vampire system about, is that distinction. Because for me, it's like, if I'm running at somebody and I go to drop kick them and like just like both feet off the ground, boss kick them down a flight of stairs, what do you mean I can't use my brawl? That's melee? I'm brawling them. I'm kicking them.
Oh, that's just a difference in your GM.
Yeah, no, like I
argue for that.
I always felt like when I was playing Vampire that I had to argue for very, very base differences because they wouldn't keep the skills succinct.
That's your GM.
Well, I don't play Vampire regularly, so I guess that helps.
Well, we'll work something out whenever I feel ready enough to run something.
Please do.
I was asked to explain something. I was asked to explain something on Twitter whenever I mentioned this. I reached the peak of my life during this game whenever because of the actions that I was taking, my GM described what I was doing as Werewolf Slenderman. As part of like my thing, I was able to get essentially like I was able to stake a claim on somebody at the behest of the Prince of Chicago. I was going after the person in charge of like police recruiting because my character wanted to be a police cop, but like because of his like he was prone to violence and everything, so like he could never get in. And it turns out that this guy was also like under another vampire. Oh,
doing a sneasel.
No, lady was dreaming. She was borking at something in her dreams.
Oh.
The bastard man from the game you were playing.
She's going after me from Blair Witch. But anyway, the way that I did that was like I used my shape-shifting to like grow werewolf claws to like climb up the building and use more of that like protean form to like pop my bones into a way where I could like slide down his chimney
Sir?
or to get into his house, like the worst gothic Santa Claus. And he described it as, oh, so yeah, you just like stretch your body and so you go down all werewolf Slender Man. And I'm just like, this is my life now. It doesn't get better than this. This is peak Cyberwolf.
I've never been more proud and disgusted in the same stretch of time.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
And yeah, so it was really great going into this game that I was very anxious about and having a wonderful, wonderful time. And like most of the other players were like a lot more familiar with Vampire, but I still felt like I belonged at this table.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Numenera. I played Numenera before. I played one game that friend of the channel, EJ the Grey, PvP, ran for us, where I played a Swiftglaive that housed the moon. Oh. And so it just been a year since I played the game, and I wanted to get a re-up on that because yeah, I think Numenera is a really cool system that I would love to play again. It's just been a fucking year. So I showed up and they were passing out a whole bunch of like cheats and everything. And I decided like, hey, this is a new group. I'm going to stick with what I know and I'm going to play this glaive. And they were a swift glaive that's like out of phase. So like they have the ghost thing from like Ant-Man and the Wasp going on, where they can like phase out of reality.
Okay.
And it was a neat game. Like we were supposed to like stop this creature from descending onto this village by summoning a guardian thing. I don't really know what happened because like we kept going into these situations where like it seemed like, hey, maybe we're going to get into combat, or maybe we'll start this encounter. And very quickly, one of the other players either circumvents the encounter. So my character, whose like main thing is combat, can't really do anything. Or I just roll, or I try to contribute and I roll natural ones.
Oh.
That happened this entire game. So I kept being handed experience for rolling natural ones and immediately had to use them to roll like a 3 or something. It was just a bad night of rolling.
Yeah.
So the game continues and we get to a break and the GM was just like, hey, like I get that like you just seem a little quiet. I'm like, yeah, it's just because like it seems like the only things my characters are good at are parkour and fighting. And whenever we parkour, I knock my headphones out with that parkour. Ooh, Andor's doing the parkour.
Yes, parkour.
Yes,
I watched it happen. I felt as an outsider, I needed to contribute.
You did it. Guest spot fulfilled.
Yay!
But I was just like, yeah, we've been going through all these like combat encounters, and it seems like they're being resolved very quickly before I can do anything. And like the one time where I felt like my parkour could shine, whenever we were going across these like this chasm like full of cages, I never got to roll that. And so I'm like, it just doesn't seem like I'm able to use my character's abilities. He's like, okay, well, like, I can make sure that we like do combat next time. And I was just like, I mean, if you want to, I don't feel like you need to change the thing for me. And he's like, okay, well, I'll see what we can do. Nope, no fucking combat for the rest of the thing.
Yikes.
So I was just like, Our characters also had some like discovery things. Some things from Numenera Discovery were like my character was like a protector of this settlement. So I'm like, hey, look, I have this thing. Can I use it? And he's just like, oh, well, I'm not really using that. And I'm just like,
So, like, did y'all have any combat at all, or?
there were combat encounters, but either the ciphers that we had or very clever ability usages by the other players who had a lot more like nano or Numenera access just seemed to resolve them very quickly.
So it wasn't very balanced.
Or the things that were coming that were causing us danger were things that we absolutely did not need to fight.
Okay.
There was one other time in the second half of that, let me be very fair to this GM because he did try where like this moss was like covering up, it was like sort of like devil snaring everybody, and everybody else was able to get away, but hey, guess what, I roll a natural 1, and so 2 other players were just like fighting over just like, oh well, how are we going to get her out, what's going on, what do we need to do? And I'm just like, I'm gonna phase out. And the DM's just like, okay. And they're still fighting because they just were not paying attention to what was going on. And DM's just like, oh yeah. Yeah, so you look back and she's gone. Do you want to tell them what happened? I phased out. And just like, oh, cool. I'm just like, okay. I don't know if I'm the hassle or if y'all are.
From third party perspective, not just because Am's your friend, they sound more of like the hassle of specifically they because it was like an intro game to Numenera, right? Like it wasn't meant for people who have a very very quality understanding of the game. It's like going into Adventurers League for D&D 5e, but it's like, okay, I'm going into an Adventurers League for specifically like 3rd level characters versus 1st level. This was supposed to be your 1st level encounter of like, okay, I am becoming familiarized with this system. I am learning. And they're just like, what do you mean you don't know the secret menu of In and Out? How dare you? Like the I would say them equals hassle specifically for the fact that they came in way too prepared. And also the adventure sounds like it wasn't what, if you had had the option of talking to a GM or a DM before a game and being like, hey, I am interested in the like X things about tabletop RPGs. Like that's kind of the difficulty of having a wide asking group, is that it's like, do you want role play? Do you want combat? Do you want these other things? And you have one person being like, combat's tight. Then you ask the second person and they're like, like role playing is tight. Then you ask the 4th person, I could go either way. And like you ask varying people, and like you kind of have to roll with what the majority asks.
Yeah, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit more whenever I talk about my Overlight game. But I think I went into this just like I wanted to learn the mechanics of the game and not necessarily lay in on the role-playing aspects of it.
I am so curious about your Overlight game.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a little bit because those were back-to-back games. And immediately after that, I ducked over to insert name of bar to hang out with the High Shelf Gaming crew, and that's where
You guys were like right next to where we were too.
Oh my
we
god.
were.
Yeah, no, your
Closeness.
drinks were cheaper, your food was better.
Go to that. It was like Kilroy's or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
went
actually didn't get any food, but
it was cheaper.
Our quote unquote creator meetup consisted of getting really drunk and just shooting the shit for 2-3 hours because that's how parties with the High Shelf Gaming crew seem to go. It's very interesting. Yes, it's very interesting because the way we originally connected is we had a mutual friend through Katrina who we met through Critical Role related circumstances, who connected us to them, but they have an entirely different perspective on the tabletop community because they're slightly older. They come from an older generation of gamers that's very much more crunchy, dungeon crawly, what have you, that are adapting to the newer scene. So, like, it's not like butting heads, but it's just like the exchange of perspectives. So it's really interesting because it's like their experience is so different from ours, and we're coming and meeting in the middle. But yeah, they're just so fun to talk to about games and so fun to get drunk with. They love getting drunk, so it's a lot of fun.
I mean, it's not like I invited you guys over to our Super 8 so we could destroy all of Greybeard's reserve of booze.
Was that immediately after this?
I know, it was great. You guys did Lathander's work, and that's the important part.
We love destroying booze.
So I do have a question to Kylen, which is, you mentioned the scene with D&D / with tabletop. What do you mean about a scene necessarily? Because like as a contributor, I understand in that it's like people who are directly involved but not necessarily on the outskirts of contributing. So I want to know, what is it when you mean a D&D 5e scene compared to previous?
I want to interject and just say that this ain't a scene. It's a goddamn arms race.
And copyright claim.
It's funny because I actually just got copyright claim for my Blair Witch video.
Oh no!
Well,
not to date this video, but you just did that.
Hey, if you like Cybrwulf1201 on YouTube and ring that notification bell, it'll prevent him from getting claimed.
That's a scientific fact. But to answer your question, Endor, which I guess this is in relation to what I was saying about the generational gap with the High Shelf crew, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I guess I mean, not to speak for all of them, but like the majority of what I've seen is a generation of gamers in which the focus is on like combat, dungeon crawl, crunching numbers, maps and minis and what have you, like the kind of hardcore gaming experience, where more of, not to speak for all of the newer generation, but the generation I come from is more of, yes, mechanics, but also like role play.
We are the group of theater nerds who are just like, we can roll to be dramatic.
Yes.
What am I rolling? A D12? That's never been used before, but I'll do it. Like,
yes, exactly. So it's like a role play. inter-party relations.
This is the next evolution of text role play. I don't have to fucking type it to you. I can just tell you what I'm role playing.
Exactly. Yeah, so all of that kind of like more of the talky stuff and setting up safety tools and theater of the mind. So the kind of newer age stuff. So
I sort of think about it as like using roleplay to build the other players up instead of relishing in their demise.
yeah.
That's actually okay.
Relishing in their hardship.
Other bit of indoor lore, which may detract a bit from this episode, I understand.
We love going off the rails.
I have, as a dungeon master, I have talked about this with other people. They have seemed surprised. I started DMing Storm King's Thunder.
How's that going?
That was my first adventure. That was the first game that I DM'd, which came out, what, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, it's got to be like 2016.
It came out 2016, 2017. That was the first game that I DM'd. With how Storm King's Thunder is, it's very difficult. I would say to like have like, okay, you have your players specific here, blah, blah, blah. But like as a whole experience, being able to kind of direct this, like the roleplay experience is very interesting to me, because when I was in high school, I did a lot of text roleplay, and now that I am a dungeon master, that's kind of what I do.
Basically.
But at the same time, just being like, it's okay, you've thought about your character for longer than a couple months. Fuck, god damn it. It's gone. It's gone.
This is a problem of doing a podcast when you're drunk.
But it also sets the bar really low. So we could just segue over to what happened on Friday.
Friday, I started. Okay, Friday. Let's get the Foley. Let's get the Foley in there for Friday. This booze bottle is... It's looking at me funny.
What are you drinking, Indoor?
We forgot to do
I decided that because I got asked to do a fancy schmancy podcast.
Well,
You didn't get asked to do a fancy schmancy podcast.
Fucking you guys. How dare you? It's not up to you to determine what the level of schmanciness is equivalent to the schmancy. The fancy is Bush. The schmancy is Mills. The equivalent that I got out of it, the mean, median, and mode, is Bushmills. $25 for a pint because, again, it fell on its side. I am Value Town. That is how I drink. It is specifically how little can you spend to how lottle can you get inebriated.
Yes.
The lottle is the important part.
Of course.
It's not a word until you drink enough, and then it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Kylen, what are you drinking?
Oh shit. Yeah. Well, I was drinking. I say was in past tense because it's gone now. Old Smoky Tennessee Moonshine. The flavor is called Some Beach.
Ooh.
Some Beach. It's supposed to taste like if Malibu had any sort of discernible alcoholic content. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I do know what you mean.
But
I sort of know what you mean. I stay away from Malibu because I don't like coconut.
Okay, well, it's not
Same.
in your face coconut. It's like mild.
Malibu is a back rub amount of coconut. It's not like strictly like this is too much coconut, but this is a okay. I'll you can try the sore spots. That's not too bad.
This is
right.
more alcohol than coconut, if that sways you.
No, the more alcohol than coconut does not sway me. If it was more coconut than alcohol, then yes, that would sway me.
Okay.
I don't like coconut because it reminds me of sand. I don't like sand because it's rough and it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
A cocoa knot. Do not want.
So I was drinking a particularly special coffee milkshake. Coffee with a registered trademark because it was coffee ice cream with Starbucks blonde espresso spiked with Kahlua pumpkin spice Baileys.
Okay, sir.
And double espresso Pinnacle vodka.
Okay, sir.
So it tasted like an alcoholic pumpkin spice latte, and ooh wee, it was good. But it was also a milkshake, which brought all the boys to the yard. And now they're all paying rent, hopefully.
I fucking hope they're paying rent, because who am I paying otherwise?
But then I needed another drink because that stream went on for a little bit longer than I was expected. That just seems to be a theme for tonight. So I need to get some Discovery draft meat from Marine Hive in Austin.
I'm so jealous. I have a mixed drink, but I want mead strictly because I have been reading A Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, and he brought up honey wine at a singular point. It was like page 92. I'm in page like 300 now, and it's never been mentioned any other time, but I want honey related
about page
foods.
92.
Meat is good.
Meat is good.
I like meat. Specifically, I like meat from this meadery. But I finished that, and I don't have any other meat in the house. So I and once again taking another step down to Michelob Ultra Infusion with lime and prickly pear cactus, and I hate it. I hate it so much, but it's alcohol. I just don't like the prickly pear.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love lime in beer, and I love shitty. Well,
shitty beer plus lime equals next level decent okay beer.
But like, look, I grew up in a trailer. Like,
really,
Coors Light, Bud Light, like they're fine. I will deal with them.
So since we're doing the break, do you want to pick the break music and the break graphic?
Well, I feel like the break music has to be. It's been a while.
Okay, yes, but do you want to pick the break graphic?
The closest thing that I can think of break music to break graphic is me hanging out with Guar. And that's it. Just any Guar song that won't get detected. I'm sorry that you have to go through that because I also don't know any Guar songs.
So what's great is YouTube's algorithms don't care if I distort the audio, if I like slow it down or speed it up.
Just slow down. Wait, okay. Hold up. Question. Please respond with a real answer. I need this. Can you, for me, slow down Guar to make it sound like Enya? That is a lot of whiskey on my lap. I am so sorry.
Oh, no.
That is a lot. It's wet.
I don't know if I can make it sound like Enya, but I can certainly slow down some guar if you send me that.
I'm gonna switch these pants.
And that's gonna be our break.
I would like to tell all the AudioCast viewers that no, I did not spill alcohol over everything I own. It only sounded like that.
I just ended up spilling it on half the things I own.
Only on playmats and other things that were under the important stuff, which, please, bottle of booze, do not fall more so than you already have.
Yeah, okay, so
Friday. Well, Thursday, you guys had your content creator meetup.
Yeah.
My content creator meetup was, I showed up at a bar. I didn't know what the bar was. I had to double back on Google Maps. The only reason I knew it was the right one was because Sirlution of Sirlution Gaming was there. And I met other people that I was like, okay, I know that you are supposed to be at this meetup. Therefore, I am at this meetup. I have judged it proper. Yes. And it took like 20 minutes for the bartender to be like, we have a table that can seat all of you. But after we were already sitting, like we just snuck onto another table and was like, this is ours now. And then we spent the night hanging out with Sirlution, Jordan the PH is Silent, Celeste of Nerdarchy. She's been on Nerdarchy. She's been on other stuff. She was there. She was really great. And then Seth Skrakowski, who has a D&D channel, or who has a YouTube channel specifically about Call of Cthulhu, Eldritch Horror, tabletop RPG stuff. But he and Jordan are really good friends. And he's a published author. And he was saying basically, like, I only review games if I've played in them. I have not played in Kids on Bikes, but I really want to. And our good friend, our dear friend, our close friend, LB Hackemup, of course, was just like, I run Kids on Bikes on Indoor Adventures every once in a while. You want to play Kids on Bikes? And as somebody sitting on the sideline, just, yes, recommend the channel. This is what I need right now. So a guy who we didn't know was a close friend of the channel until that evening, Seth Skrakowski, we are going to try and have him be on the channel for either a Kids on Bikes game or another game that he wants to review, that he wants to play in, but he doesn't necessarily want to GM. Because I know that is a huge determinant factor, like Cyber being like, I own all of these games.
I need to play them before
I play them
before I even attempt to read and be
yes.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, so that was my evening, was going to a very cheap bar where, as I was ordering drinks at the bar, they let me know the drink that you ordered is out. We do not have any more liquor of the kind that you ordered. We have enough to fill the glass up that you bought this much. We will not pay you. So I got a few free drinks at the bar that I went to.
Okay.
Because I kept ordering just like, I want that whiskey. It looks tasty. It is a Japanese whiskey. And they were like, this is the only bottle that we've had in months. There is enough for half a shot. If you were looking to get more booze, consider getting this other whiskey, but we've already poured you the shot, so I guess this is on you. Like, okay. Free booze. That's not bad. But Thursday night, I ended up meeting the lot of you guys, Cyber, Ethan, Kylen. Kylen, you tried on the Indoor Adventures crop top.
I did. I need to.
Yes, you looked fantastic in it, which was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I could do this. Kylen looks fly. I could also look fly wearing this crop top.
Yeah.
If you are curious as to what Indoor looks like wearing a crop top at GenCon, oh boy, did I have a Friday. This is before I met Guar. Did I have a day doing all of this? Like, it was one of those. Graybeard messaged me in like March or April asking, hey, if I bought a crop top, would you wear it? And like, not in like a weird, like, would you wear this crop top? But in a genuine, would you wear this crop top if I bought it for you? Just for a day. It's a gag. It's a goof. Would you wear this crop top? And it's like,
I'll have a gif.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll fucking wear a goof. It doesn't matter to me.
We are in this for the memes.
For the meme. Like, if I meet anybody who knows who I am, because at PAX Unplugged, somebody recognized me. I had a person come up and be like, oh my God, you're the Indoor Adventurer. That's like, I'm hanging out with my Monday night crew. Look, it's Caleb. Look, it's Corey. It's like, well, what? No, I mean, like, from the chicken nuggets. Like, you're the Indoor Adventurer. Because for all you audiocast listeners, I made a very unhealthy, unrealistic goal for myself that I could eat 1,000 chicken nuggets in a year. I got over 500, and then I told myself that if I went and checked out with my doctor would probably tell me not to do that anymore. So I stopped. And I haven't had chicken nuggets in over a year of just because. Do not want. Feel weird. Feel weird about it. I don't want it.
Canceled.
Chicken nuggets themselves, the very concept of chicken nuggets, canceled. I go into a drive-through restaurant. They have chicken nuggets. I have to find something else. Nope, can't do it anymore. Can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that. But no, my Friday panel. I have had more negative consequence for attending that panel than I have having signed up for it, because I have my GenCon badge in the distance here.
Oh.
It was for the Poisoners Guild. It was specifically how to make a realistic poison effect for a tabletop RPG. Because one is like, hey, your body stopped working. You got the sweats. It's pretty terrible. Oh, you feel like you're dying. I wonder what that could be. Fuck you, it's ticks. Or like, oh man, I got this really terrible disease. I wonder what this could be. Oh, I feel like I'm dying. It's a bug bite you got fucking 12 hours ago, homie. Like, the way that the panel was the first 6 slides we could take pictures of. But after a certain point, he was like, these people are either seriously injured or dead. You cannot take a picture of them. Because it was like, this is what Cobra Venom does 13 hours in. 24 hours in. 36 hours in. And it was watching like regular hand balloon out and then shrink back in. But because it's with real people, it's not like you have the cognitive dissonance of like, you know, fucking like, oh, I look at this tabletop RPG. Oh, that looks gross and sickly. Thank God it's fake. And then you move on. This was like, no, how do you want to turn these atrocities into tabletop RPG things?
Oh my
So
god.
I have learned, hey, if you really want to fuck with like an army, an organized army, and they're going up against a bunch of fey creatures, a bunch of creatures who are of this extra dimensional, extra planar origin, have them drop a bunch of ticks. That's it. Have them drop a bunch of this burrowing insect onto dudes who are taking the half-hour time to get decked out in their full plate mail. So they go through the process of getting their heavy armor on. They get out into into the stance of sword out, ready to fuck for the next 8 hours, and all of a sudden you watch a bunch of dragonflies soar over. Oh, they dropped some stuff. That's weird. I wonder what that stuff could be. Man, I'm feeling kind of itchy. But I can't itch it necessarily because I'm in this plate mail. I don't feel itchy anymore. I'm gonna pass out. Hey man, that's not, oh shit, he actually did it. And then you watch as the rest of your regiment also passes out from ticks.
The true BBEG.
The true BBEG is alcoholism. Because it is a physical dependence as well as a mental dependence, right? So imagine you were playing a paladin. In the Poisoners Guild, they brought this up. Imagine you were playing a paladin. You want to do good and cause shit in a town so nobody second guesses what you're doing. 5 points of lay on hands cures a disease. Physical dependence to alcohol. Alcohol withdrawals kick in. Suddenly this dude that if you just gave him some fucking liquor, he'd be fine, is going nuts. He is making a scene. Your paladin cured somebody, and it didn't work out well. That kind of discrepancy. Oh, chef's kiss, please. Yes, this is what I want. I want I want that dichotomy between I'm helping and I'm not helping at all. In fact, I'm making things worse.
So you took evil notes for your own games, I'm assuming.
Oh, it was a handout. I didn't even have to take notes.
Oh no. That's worse.
That was to start Friday off and to go through Friday for GenCon. That was when I met Guar, which was the most weird experience I think I've had in almost my entire life, is because I met Guar. I did not think that going to GenCon this year that I would meet Guar, and when I did not think that Guar would give me as much shit as they did. So I'm in my crop top, bless Graybeard for having purchased, and I'm going through the con, and I point to my SO and I'm like, holy fuck, it's Guar. Yeah, I'll get a picture. So I get a picture with Guar, and one of them's just like, hey, I'd find you a lot more attractive if if this tummy shirt was a little bit more revealing. And another was like, I'd find you more attractive if you got rid of the beard. And another dude said, that's not his beard, that's his girlfriend.
Oh my god.
And I was like, did I just get called gay by Guar? I'm actually okay with this. Like, out of all of the people to ridicule me for my sexual preferences, at least it was people who have professionally, like, role-played since the 90s. Like, this is Guar. That's okay. So I go to it is a board game, a card game called Guar versus Time. And as I go there, the lady there is like, hey, you guys are waiting for a second group to show up to play. And we're like, okay. We're playing a collectible tabletop RPG, like collectible tabletop game. Like there's a DC game, a game that's licensed by DC that's made by Cryptozoic that's roughly the same idea. It's a deck building game.
Mm-hmm.
And we play it, and we're playing it for about 20 minutes. And Guar shows up. They are the second group that was supposed to be playing it. So if you look on Guar's Facebook page, they have video of me playing this game where they refer to me only as midriff. Because I am that is all I am wearing is this midriff shirt. And when they show up, they heckle us. They heckle us for all they're worth. They're like, you guys are playing the game wrong. And say it with such conviction that the lot of us turn up and we're like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. Of course we're playing this game wrong. You guys made this game. And the dude says, when we played this game last night, there was beer. There's no beer on this table. Waitress, bring them some beer. There are over 70,000 people at this convention, and this dude is yelling for waitress to bring some beer. For those of you who were at GenCon, it was Conference Hall A, which is the backmost fucking hall of the entire play space. And this member of Guar is hand up into the air saying, waitress, bring them some beer. Another dude says, my favorite card to play is the leaf blower, and he makes the motion around his groin of him blowing all of the cards off the table. Which was just one of those like, you got us. But the best part is that two of them were super into their characters, and then the third guy was holding up a smartphone being like, so how do you guys like the game? Like, just like super, so sweet. Just so wholesome as an individual. Just, hey, so like, do you think the mechanics are good? How do you guys like the game? Whereas everyone else is just like, waitress, they need beer, like, he played this card, he's standing up to play it, kick him in the balls. Like, just like being the most crudest, rudest dudes. And then one dude being like, hey, like, it's okay. How do you like the tabletop collectible card game that you found yourself in between the hours of like 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Is that good? Is that fun for you?
Surprisingly wholesome.
Super wholesome. He was the guy wearing stilts. That was my Friday. Was literally hanging out with Guar.
Amazing.
I didn't think I would hang out with Guar that day.
But here I was, doing
There you are, getting heckled.
Getting heckled by Guar.
in a crop top.
In a crop top. That's the most important part. And then Saturday.
Well,
yes.
How about Kylen? What's your Friday starting off with? Didn't you get started at 8?
Wow. That's a great question you asked there. Let me just check this schedule. Oh yes. I played masks at 10 in the morning, which honestly was probably one of the highlights of my Gen Con. The game was so much fun.
You guys are playing Masks again soon, aren't you?
Today.
Yes. We're playing masks instead of D&D. So that'll be fun because most everyone has not played masks and has only played D&D. So it'll be a nice new system to introduce to the home group. But yeah. So I play masks and it's so much fun. It's powered by the Apocalypse game in which you play teen superheroes. And one of the fun things about it is that your stats are always shifting because you're an adolescent and your view on yourself is always changing. And it's based off the important people in your life who influence you.
Your Static Shock.
Fun. Oh, it's so great. I played the Beacon, who is basically someone who doesn't have the best superpowers, but they have so much heart. It's such a fun playbook to play. And I had so much fun with it. So much so that Ethan and I went out and bought all the masks. We bought the core books and the supplements just so we could have this, and now we're playing it again on Sunday because it was so much fun. And then also on Friday, we went to the Uncaged Anthology panel from the people who made Uncaged Anthology.
And it was good. I was there with you.
I'm glad you got in.
Oh yeah, I forgot like all of my tickets that day. All my physical tickets. So I was for some of my panels, I just nat 20 stealth rolled into them and just ducked out before like you left tickets. These were all like free stuff, so like I wasn't gypping anybody of any money. And also GenCon already got my money for them. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was a sold out panel, so they were just making sure that everybody was able to get in, especially since like the Uncaged crew are still doing a lot this year. So
they have a second volume coming out this year.
No, the second volume's already out.
Oh shit, never mind.
They've got 3 more planned.
Third and a fourth at least.
I know D&D Elise / Agrippa Green is helping out with Uncaged Anthology stuff. I'm helping them out with an upcoming product.
Ooh.
That's it.
Good. But yeah, it was a really cool talk. I'm very glad that they I had talked about this on a previous Let's Talk About It. I'm very glad that they are aware of how homogenous the second volume was. There are like 6, well, no, let me not exaggerate. There are like 4 adventures with Rilsaka in it. And
with who?
Rilsaka, it's a mythological creature that's like a drowned woman.
Oh, I hadn't heard it with that pronunciation. I was right. I always heard it as Riskolka. Magic the Gathering. That's legitimately it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like they all created like their own stat blocks for them, so it was just really weird to have like 3 different versions of the same monster, but very different takes on them, back to back in this anthology of different adventures, on expressing like, hey, what are these monster stories? It was just a little bit dissonant.
Yeah.
Such a like lack of diversity in the adventures, whereas like the actual characters and people creating them were such a breath of fresh air.
Well, I was gonna say like Uncaged Anthology 1 was I've been a player in it multiple times, and that's the fact that I would go back to it multiple times that is the selling point that I feel like is the important part, is that it's worth playing.
Yeah. All the adventures are really well written, and the characters are very interesting. And like I said last time, most of like the monsters have like, hey, this is how they would act. This is how like they would act on their turn. This is like what they want to do. Which, like, for me, a DM who isn't great at playing monsters in a particularly effective way, it's great to have just like, hey, this is what you do. Don't worry about anything else. But it was really nice, like, going to the panel and like hearing them talk about like their decision making, and just like their. It was a very small section of this team, but just hearing them talk about like the process of making artwork for these things, the process of like getting everybody together, of getting these adventures written, and shining a light on all these female monsters and just other monsters that, hey, maybe have a story to tell.
Yeah. No, like the way that I have felt about the Uncaged anthology and the way that they have kind of gone about developing, I've loved. It's so great, like, as somebody on the outer cusp of it, to just kind of watch it be like, oh, okay, so that's the way that you went with this. That's really nice. Like, cis white male in a cis white male's fantasy tabletop RPG world. I'm so bored. It's all the same. I've read this story. I've played this game. The majority of prompts are things that I have experienced. So going into Uncaged Anthology, where it was like, hey, that's how it is. It's nice. It's appreciative. They're doing the heckin' best that they can. So thank you. Thank you to all of the Uncaged Anthology people. You're great.
Absolutely.
Because, like, otherwise, I'm playing the same, like, it's not the same adventure. Obviously, things are changing. But at the end of the day, it's the same adventure.
Yeah.
There are the same notes that I'm hitting. It might be in a different context to make it feel like it's different and new. And it's just the same. Mm-hmm. So for like the Uncaged Anthology people, like, I do want to play the second volume, even if a lot of the people are the drowned lady on accident.
Oh, you've played the Uncaged Anthology like start to finish as a single?
No.
Game? Okay.
No, I've played a few adventures of volume 1. That's
okay.
It.
So I really like a lot of the adventures. Would never link them together in a single game.
No, God, no.
Like, they do not connect. It's not Ghost of Saltmarsh.
No.
Tales from the Yawning Portal.
They look at each other, wink, give a thumbs up, and then swap.
And yeah, we'll get back to talking about panels real quick, but Uncaged Anthology, if we're role-playing, we're experiencing, we actually have the ability to like walk a mile in someone else's shoes through role-playing different characters. But for 2 out of the 3 of us on this podcast right now, it is great to get someone else's perspective as a creator creating these things, because unfortunately we don't get to experience the perspectives of, you know, being a woman DM, or how that affects our storytelling. But, you know, it's great to be able to like see the results of that experience.
I don't even know what that would be like. I can't even imagine wrapping my head around it. So thank you for being awesome enough to let us know in the vaguest way that you could via an adventure how it was.
Yeah, obviously that's not perfect. We're getting a very little glimpse of your experience, and yeah, we'll take
Again,
it.
DMing for like a year and a half, 2 years. Thank you. Thank you for these adventures. Just let me know. Yeah, no, this interaction as a whole would not turn out this way. It's like, I'm a dum-dum. That's okay. Like,
No.
as long as I can I can point at myself and realize,
Hey, I'm being dumb.
I'm a dum-dum.
I'm
That's
sipping on
okay.
the dummy juice.
Not even diet variety. Just whole
Oh,
brain.
pal.
I'm sipping on the male privilege juice.
Sir?
That's the tea.
Did we do anything else Friday?
Actually, I did. So I started Friday with a Masters of Roleplay, designing complex characters and bringing them to life panel. Because yeah, I also booked myself full of panels because I don't fucking learn. But this was like Rudy Rutenberg, Malika Zim, Zach Eubanks, Cindy Brunel, Marcy Bellin, like Maze Arcana and friends, talking about like, hey, their characters and like their flaws and experiences and stuff. Same stuff you hear at any creator that talks about it, but like, you know, I respect Rudy. I respect all these people.
I saw the Rudy Woot a few times. I don't need his signature. He's a neato guy.
Want to know who I saw a lot walking around the convention?
Whomst?
Adam Coble.
Oh,
And he's actually the next panel that I went to, the Adam Coble Power Hour.
so
What is the Adam Coble Power Hour? I don't know.
so before you get into the Adam Coble Power Hour, our dear friend Graybeard got confused for Adam Coble several times throughout the con. Which Adam Coble is young. Let me repeat that. He is young.
And has pink hair.
Adam Coble.
In his 20s young.
Yeah.
Graybeard, by a name of Graybeard, you understand he's an older boy
With blue hair.
in his 50s
But
with
blue
blue hair. And he had people asking him as he was cosplaying his Waterdeep character, are you Thor? Are you Adam Coble?
Are you Adam Coble as Thor?
And GB, who has like the biggest like Adam Coble, I would sit and talk to you for hours as like a man's who you're doing all the right things for. GB just had to be like, I'm not Adam Coble, but thank you. That's it. Like that is it. He was living on a weird high. I have never seen GB live other than this weekend.
So I went to the Adam Coble Power Hour.
Yes.
And there wasn't really a point to it. Like, it was Adam Coble talking about like his content and stuff. Like, just with like fans who are, you know, who stan Adam Coble. And I was having a good time just sitting in and hearing somebody talk passionately about the content that they were creating. That's what I did last year whenever I went to a panel where, again, Adam Coble was talking about like networking with TTRPG creators, like publishers and stuff, as a streamer. Now, I was a very itty bitty channel there, then very newly affiliated. But
You've gotten that over 100 since then.
Yeah, I grew a lot since then.
Bom, bom.
Which we'll talk about at the end of the day. Let's talk about it. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a really cool thing. Again, I had to eat the fuck out of there before they realized that I didn't have my tickets. But, nah, it was fine. Kylen, did you have any things on Friday?
I'm pretty sure that was all of my Friday things. Yep.
Just the Uncaged?
Yep. That and masks. And that was
masks, yeah.
Besides when we went to Critical Role that evening, but that's not necessarily GenCon affiliated.
Well, yes, we did go to Critical Role that evening. Our second Critical Role live show.
Hey.
They encountered wolves there, and the entire audience was out wooing, and I was living my best life whenever the people behind me finally shut up.
Oh no.
I went to an ACK Inc. panel last year at PAX Unplugged. The people behind me and the people in front of me were also insufferable. I'm with you. It's okay.
I'm just glad I didn't sit behind someone with a tall hat this year.
Hey,
I was able to see.
We were in the balcony, but we had really great seats because we were like right in the middle. It was a good time. Also, it was the very first live show where they heard the audience singing the Critical Role theme song, the new one, Critical Role, and I think we made some of them cry. It was
lit.
I'm glad.
I'm glad we made you cry.
I'm glad we made you cry. No, the for ACK Inc., if you look at the PAX Unplugged ACK Inc. game for 2018, you can see myself and Danae over Jerry Holkins' shoulder the entire game.
Was it the C team or just the ACK Inc. game?
ACK Inc., like the main game.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Yeah. No, so it was, they did their main game. Danae and I are over Jerry's shoulder. It was one of those just like, oh my God, I am adjacent to somebody who matters.
I'm adjacent to someone who matters. Both of you assume that you're not someone who matters.
That's why it's like, oh, when I actually met Jerry in person, I felt so small because I was on his left-hand shoulder for an evening and I had nothing meaningful to say about anything. Doesn't matter, but you still feel like you might be able to be, have that moment. Have that medium, have that modicum of, I'll do this thing forever. This will be my moment. This is my moment. And instead you just go, Acquisition is incorporated. That's it.
Oh
no. It was great. I would do it 1,000 times over.
Oh no.
Me, whenever I was very nervous and mumbling in front of Liam O'Brien last year.
Yes. I'm not for work.
No, it was just like, dude, you got to speak up because I really can't hear you over all this. And I'm like, hi, I'm Connor. Because that it's just really like a real like shot to your confidence whenever someone has to be like, I can't hear you.
I'm baby.
I'm baby. You hugged my sister.
The worst shock to my confidence that I ever had was at a Magic the Gathering tournament. Because I had a playmat of Magic the Gathering players that I wanted to remember. And so I, underneath their signatures, I was spelling their names, and I spelled one of their names wrong. And one of my friends started giving me shit for it. And then immediately I had what I assumed was a random person ask, "Who's spelling my name wrong?"
Oh no!
You know, the guy who was going to be admitted into the Hall of Fame later that year for his excellence in Magic the Gathering. Just, who's spelling my name wrong? Oh, it's you who have already spelt my name wrong from asking for X amount of thing earlier this year.
Oh no! And
Brian Kibler, you remembered me whether you wanted to or not, and that was the most important part of my year.
Friend of the channel.
Friend of the channel, Brian Kibler. Brian Kibler.
So after getting very drunk that night and going to bed, how's everyone's Saturday going? At GenCon?
Saturday, I had so many things. I started off my day with a whodunit, adding mystery to speculative fiction, which was the first and only panel I had with Connor.
Yep.
Hey.
Time.
We heard mystery artists talk about making mystery.
It was neat.
Yeah.
That was it.
I don't know how to adapt it to D&D.
No.
But
not at all. Okay. That was my second and only pseudo gripe with GenCon. These motherfuckers portrayed it as a sole D&D event, and then I ended up going to panels that were nothing about tabletop RPGs. Absolutely nothing about it. I went to this panel with Cyber, which was whodunit, adding mystery to speculative fiction. Do you know what speculative fiction is, Kylen?
What's that?
Congratulations, you answered your own question. There is no fucking definition of speculative fiction, Kylen.
How was I supposed to know?
So it's like fantasy and sci-fi, but like also with historical fiction and just literally any sort of fucking fiction. Mm-hmm. But it has to say, but what is that?
Like, it has to at one point, at some point during its narrative ask, but why? But why? Why?
Why?
But why? That was that entire panel of, oh, that is a really good question. Oh, that would be interesting in a tabletop setting. Why is it important for a novella? For a book? For an actual, honest-to-God people book. And Cyber and I both sitting there being like,
but
Dungeons and Dragons is cool.
But Dungeons and Dragons.
But what about my 5e?
But why?
What about my 5e? But why? And like that was going to that panel. And then what else? Saturday, maintaining a reader's sense of wonder was basically, how do you feed your players / your readers narrative arcs? How do you feed them the good goods? So I asked at the very end of the panel, hey, I run a lot of tabletop RPGs. what do I do if my players are going into a room where all of the shiny tasties are? And the advice I got was, this is why I don't run tabletop RPGs.
Sir,
Excuse
this is
me?
the GenCon.
The lady who gave me the advice said, have them be your readers instead of your players, because your players will do unbeknownst bullshit. When my question was, if my players go into this area, how do I make them understand the context of mystery?
That sounds less than helpful.
Yeah.
I got helpful responses from other people in the panel, but that initial lady who cut me off to say, don't have players, have readers, you made a difference that day. It was not a good difference.
I don't know if that was the person who gave us the free book or not, but
I set the free book down and walked away.
Oof. Oof.
I had a set amount of space for my return home trip, and I actually got called by TSA for having too many books in my luggage.
Oh
Yeah, I got called away for having too many books, and the dude was like, so you have a lot of books. I was like, yeah, I went to a tabletop RPG convention. It was called GenCon. It was in Indianapolis. This is how many people. That's quite a few people. Flips through book one, sets it aside. How was it? How was GenCon? Opens up second book, begins flipping through it, and it's like, it would tell you if you weren't determining if I was a terrorist or not.
no.
That's it.
Which book has bomb?
Volo's Guide to Monsters, as it would turn out. I almost missed my flight because I had too many books.
Oh
Too much.
damn.
But yes, so that was my experience in the Whodunit panel. And the maintaining a reader sense of wonder. And then that was okay, so Saturday, the last panel that I had, which was not a panel I thought I would have, a fantasy tabletop illustration panel.
no.
I thought it was going to be history. I thought it was going to be talking about how illustrations in tabletop games have developed throughout the years. Instead, it was a dude being like, I made this tabletop game and I did too many drawings for it. This is how you avoid burnout. And another dude being like, I did most of the art for the Netrunner tabletop RPG. This is how you avoid burnout. And then the third lady being like, I'm the hiring director of the company that these other two guys are feeling burnout from. AMA. Ask me anything. It does not matter. That is the one panel I ducked out from early.
Mm.
I did not go to any other panel, but because the panel was specifically, I thought it was going to be a historical panel.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being a direct contact AMA panel. And I didn't have any questions because this was not the panel I thought it was going to be.
Oh no.
So I left and got a nice lunch later.
Good that you found time for food,
Yes.
because that's difficult at Gen Con.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is. Because you want to go and get food from the food carts during the regular lunch hour. Good fucking luck.
Be prepared to wait for an actual hour.
An actual 45 minutes from a place that serves two things: noodles with chicken and noodles without. That's it. Only two things they serve. 35-minute wait time.
Some good fucking noodles, though.
Some good fucking noodles.
Mhm.
The dude that I watched making those noodles, freehand a machete, freehand some fucking leeks, and just going to town on them.
Fuck those leaks.
Fuck those leeks. That dude was incredible.
Oh my god, yes.
Kylen, did you have anything on Saturday before Talks Machina?
Before Talks Machina was time for me to sleep, but then it was Talks Machina. I went to the huge ass panel where I said to everyone, no, I'm not going to ask a question. I did that last year. I'm not going to do that again.
Then you said, bet.
What did I do to myself? I asked a fucking question.
What was the question?
The question was to Marisha Ray was if Bo could romance any of the hot lady NPCs from the first campaign, who would she bang? And the answer was Kima, because of course.
That makes sense.
I was like, that's valid.
Yeah.
That's valid, girl.
No, you sit back down just being like, yeah, okay, I understand. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I my knees were already hurting from days of walking. But the thing that you don't know, unless you go through one of these panels and try to ask a question, is they make you like crawl on your hands and knees and like sit on your knees the entire time until you get to ask a question. So it's just killer for the joints. So afterwards, I was just like, like my fucking bones hurt.
Owie.
It was a lot of fun. I got to talk to my good friend Brian again, Brian W. Foster. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And this panel is actually available on the internet. So if you go to wherever it's posted, you can
It was posted on the GenCon site, but I'm sure Critical Scope must have gotten it by now.
maybe.
But without, cutting out where you and I go and ask questions.
True.
Dasbiff did his best. Friend of the channel, Dasbiff. That was your only Saturday panel?
Yeah, that was my only Saturday panel. Then I went to Game of Phoenix Dawn Command later, which we were in.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I actually started the day with that Whodunit panel that Andrew was at. And then between that and Talks Machina, a good friend of mine, Camille does D&D on Twitter, friend of the channel, Pew, was actually running a live game of her actual play, Open for Adventure. I had conflicts between the previous panel, the Whodunit panel,
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
the Talks Machina after, so I could not participate in all this. I still have not guested on the actual campaign of Open for Adventure just because they record on Mondays.
Yeah.
But hey, there might be more stuff happening with that channel because it's been doing really well, and maybe on another day you might be able to see a Cyber. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I ducked off to the Talks Machina panel where I did not ask a question because I didn't have one. I had one, but it was for Matt, and I didn't feel like it was a really good question.
Yeah.
Did I? Then yeah, we played Phoenix Dawn Command.
That was fun.
Yeah. It's a RPG system, but with cards. I died.
I died too, but that's okay because the system rewards you if you die.
Yeah, because you're a phoenix. You rise from your own death.
Okay.
That was.
It was just okay.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, it was actually really fun.
Okay.
I played a character named Wolf.
I will.
I would. And yeah. So, anything else happening on Saturday? I know Kylen and I did have. I had another panel. It's called "How Not to Suck at Storytelling."
I was going to go to that one, but I didn't because I went to the illustrating tabletop games.
Oh, the one that didn't apply to you.
At all.
It was cool. It was just a whole bunch of people who've been running games for a while saying like, hey, yeah, we fucked up. This is how we fucked up. Try to learn from our mistakes. Just like one guy who's like, yeah, I was running like a 11-week Vampire the Masquerade LARP. And one of the sessions, I was really excited because I was going to like, everybody, it was like the penultimate episode, like everybody was making their moves, betraying their friends and stuff, like executing on their political plans. And then I ended the session with, yeah, next week you'll all wake up from this dream sequence. Because guess what? All the last couple of sessions were a dream sequence. And everybody was like so pissed off because they had all like revealed their hands and there was no payoff.
Oop.
I'm pissed and I don't even play.
That was the only one that like sparks to mind. But yeah, it was neat. It was cool to sit on. Mostly I was just sitting in the audience still like having a sort of high from the Vampire the Masquerade game that I played on Thursday. So I was just like, hey, that Chicago by Night expansion, that's on BackerKit. I can order it. So I did, and then I started reading the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to read the PDF. The book's still really hard to read.
Yeah, that's the experience I had whenever I was going through the dealer hall and I picked up the Changeling, the Dreaming core book, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is really dense and I cannot concentrate on this, so I'm going to put this one away.
But that was all that we did at the actual GenCon, right?
Yeah, we had a wicked night of karaoke that night.
Yeah, we had our unofficial GenCon event, JabroniCon.
JabroniCon!
I wish we had gone to JabroniCon.
Oh,
I was feeling tummy sick that day though.
that's fair. I should have taken better care of myself during Gen Con by getting more sleep and drinking less.
I should have taken care of myself more at GenCon by drinking more and sleeping less.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. We went to a Korean karaoke place and ate delicious Korean food and sang pop punk hits from the 2000s.
Sang quite literally until our voices gave out.
Oh, so true. Yeah. It was an amazing experience. Lots of good people turned out. Yeah, it was a lot of good fun.
So, yeah, JabroniCon, which was honestly like just really cool because it was like people who started following us from like our involvement in each other's like streaming communities.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, let's all hang out. Just like with each other, enjoy each other's presence. And it was just like the first time that I was really just like, oh damn, this is a community that like we built.
when I talk on the internet, it like makes a difference.
But like, yeah. Last year, I went to a panel hosted by Matt Colville that was supposed to be building a community, because he had just had a very successful Kickstarter, and which he contributed largely to the community that he built around his running the game videos and like his brand. He ended up making an adventure instead, because he was just like, oh, well, y'all came to see me, and I could talk a lot better about building an adventure than I could about building a community. But, you know, that's really what I wanted to go there, and I was really fortunate that he picked my question at his, like, Q&A panel at the end, because, like, one of my questions was, at what point did you realize that you weren't just making videos, you were building a community? And his answer was, whenever somebody made fan art of the Delian Tomb, which was like his introductory building a dungeon that he did in one of his running the game videos. For me, that's SharoniCon. That was having people like come just randomly, haven't met me before that weekend, and just like enjoyed a night of making asses of ourselves playing
Wake me up to fucking goofy voices.
wake me up inside. Yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Like for things like the games that we run on the channel that we have, like that's all I want, is for eventually people to just show up at a random karaoke night and be like, I know who you are. Wake me up inside. And you're like, okay, like that's fine. I guess this is happening now. Like,
Save me?
yeah, that moment, fuck me up, fam. Like, that sounds awesome. It sounds rad. It sounds weird.
Yeah, it was really fucking weird.
Yeah.
Sunday.
Sunday. My Sunday was an event, so maybe Connor should go first.
Yeah, so mine was also an event. It was I'll talk about mine first though. It was Overlight. I played Overlight. I heard really cool things about the system, and I wanted to try it out. And first off, I showed up an hour early to the thing, so I had time to like go to a hotel Starbucks and get a nice little snack. But then I showed up, and the guy who was running it was very talkative, and he had a lot to say about how he's like a rising personality in the TTRPG scene, and
I'm sure.
really happy to be there and be going to all these panels for this particular game company. I'm like, hey, that's cool, dude. How does this game work? We ended up having two other people who didn't have tickets to the game show up to like hopefully get seats at the table. But unfortunately, everybody who did have tickets did show up. But he spent 30 minutes talking to them, and it cut very deeply into the time that we had with him, where he was just talking about the system with the people who weren't even going to play. Then he was just turned back to us and just like, oh yeah, so here's the like adventure that they wanted me to run for you. Adventure into the Ivory Mausoleum. It's a really great adventure. I'm not going to run it here because it doesn't fit into the time slot. It didn't fit into the time slot anyway. So we're just going to make all this up on the spot. I was just like, bah.
Sir,
this is organized play.
This is a Wendy's.
So I was already just like a little bit like on edge, like off kilter for that. But I was playing the world of Overlight is like split up into colors. Like each color is like associated with a virtue, and these sections of the world have a like race that's closely associated with those colors. And I was born into the civilization that was associated with the color red. This barbarian, sort of like red elephant people, and I was this like barbarian princess. But the virtue that I was associated, my spark, because the heroes of the game, they're born into one civilization, but they have the spark of another one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was associated with the purple thing, which was wisdom, and I picked this class because it had stuff like divine flame and flame speaker and everything. I figured that it would be more of like the healer cleric role, and I was just like, okay, well, I don't know these people and I don't know the system, so like I'm probably going to be like really shy and reserved, so like let me stay back and like take on a healing role. It was the socialite. It was the bard. So I was just like, yeah, I'm talking to these people just like, yeah, how's it, like I'm princess, so like I know all these things, and like I just want to make like friends with everybody. And I was just like, oh my god, I'm so uncomfortable.
Oh no.
But we ended up playing the game and it was fine. We never got into combat. Like we were going to get into combat. And then the GM was like, okay, well, that's time. This is what's going to happen for the rest of the adventure. So, yeah, I didn't want to leave you off with, like, any untied ends. So, like, this is just what happened with the rest of it. I was just like, I came here to learn the mechanics of this game. You spent 20 minutes of our time talking to these other people who weren't going to play the game.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, like, the thing that I came to this game to actually play, you're just like, nope, oh, sorry, that's time. I gotta go. I'm like, wow, I really didn't have a great time with that.
Yeah.
The system was cool. Like, I like the mechanics of it, but it's so closely tied to the world and the setting and the races of that world. And I'm just not a fan of a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I would actually play Overlight.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to run anything for it.
That's fair.
It just happens to also be tainted with that first experience.
Yeah. It sounds neat, but not like something that I would play a second game of. No.
Kylen also had a game.
Oh my god. I had my first GenCon horror experience playing a game of Urban Shadows. So Urban Shadows is a very like gritty political, we're monsters and we like run the city and we have factions and there's violence, but there's also like social conflict and what have you. It's a fun game. Whenever I first bought tickets for Gen Con, I was like, I'm gonna play games that I haven't played before. But then in a strange turn of events, I ended up joining a Urban Shadows actual play podcast, which hasn't come out yet, but I had already played a little bit of Urban Shadows before Gen Con, so I was like, okay, I'm somewhat familiar. So I go to play this game, and God, basically to summarize it is there was this guy there who did not want to conform to anyone else's ideas of what was cool to bring up in the game and what was not cool to bring up in the game. Like we were using safety tools like X cards, lines and veils, all that sort of stuff to be like, hey, this is what I don't want to talk about at all. This is what I feel comfortable talking about up until a certain point. And so we had like basically placed all the stuff we were uncomfortable with on the table, and this guy was like, I don't know how I can make a character based off of this. I'm feeling really restricted. I don't know how I can make a character that doesn't include these things. And like the things that we had, said that we weren't okay with were like sexual assault and violence and child abuse and things of that nature. And this guy was like, I can't make a character that doesn't include those things.
You're bad at tabletops.
Exactly.
You're bad at tabletop RPGs, my friend.
This guy's excuse was, oh, I'm a horror writer for a living. I write horror. So
Oh,
this
your
is
horror
my-
story, all right.
Exactly. And so ended up getting like a manager involved and him getting into confrontation with our GM before he was finally like, okay, I gotta leave. I can't do this. And like once he left, it was like a huge sigh of relief, and we could like go and play this game that we paid to play,
Yeah.
But he had taken, I swear to you, an hour and a half to just make it all about him and how he couldn't make a character under these restrictive conditions. So, it was kind of a horror story in that respect. But at the end of it, the DM for that game, or GM, I guess, was like, hey, I just want you guys to know that in spite of everything, this was the best game that I got to run this weekend because of, your guys' characters and your relationships and what y'all did, XYZ. So it was still a satisfying experience. It's just this guy took up like an hour and a half of our playtime for his bullshit, Not to be mean, but it was bullshit. So in my, this is my second time going to GenCon. This is my only like game horror story that I've had, but like, oof, it was a doozy. But luckily, it was all smoothed over because the people over at Magpie Games are really great about that stuff, about like safety tools and making sure everyone is okay with everything. But yeah, that was a very just an anomaly of an experience. But the rest of my Sunday was good. I got to play the Nino Cooney
Nino Tooney.
Nino Tooney.
So before we get into the Maid Cafe, it's becoming a tradition where the very last event of GenCon that Ethan, Kylen, and I attend is an anime game that both of them actually have tickets for, and me just showing up and tagging along and having a real good time. Good.
Yeah.
Should have come to the Maid Cafe.
I couldn't get tickets for the Maid Cafe.
I understand. You know why? We were one group out of every single group that came to the Maid Cafe. We were one of 3 out of the hundreds that they serviced that the entirety of the group was one group of actual friends.
Oh.
Every other group that came was like 2 to 3 dudes, 2 to 3 dudes, 2 to 3 dudes as like the actual group. So showing up to the Maid Cafe when we had 8+ people being like, yes, this is the cheapest we will get a group photo for. Take our picture. It's obligatory at this point.
Yeah.
Make like a weird like cat like meows, like your fucking hand paws, or like make a heart with your hands. Like it doesn't matter. Nya, get us in this goddamn photo. So that is what we have. Is that originally the Cat Cafe photos were supposed to be, we'll take your photo, but you get 2 pictures total.
Mm-hmm.
Showed up as a group, so we got 8 pictures total.
Yes.
Of our group. It was one of those like, if you ever wanted to ask a stranger like, hey, can you hold this photo? Can you hold this phone while we're taking the picture? What if that was what if that was their job? That was all they had.
all they had was to take my cute pictures.
Oh, listeners, he's showing us the pictures.
Cybrwulf is gonna put them up right now. I hope.
Oh yeah.
So we had not only our general anime pictures, but then at LB's house, the night that we were supposed to be flying away, we also had Polaroids.
Oh, cutie patooties. Oh.
It was super cute. I miss GenCon. I miss GenCon every single day. I want to go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how would you summarize your first GenCon experience? What did you like? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? Fucking nothing. And that's the part that's the most upsetting. Because there were so many things that I wanted to do at GenCon. I wanted to get food. I wanted to hang out with people. I wanted to get new tabletop RPGs in order to play. I did all of those things. And I didn't do those things. I got new tabletop RPGs. I hung out with new people. I experienced new things with friends. And I want more of that. I want to hang out with new people.
Oh, yeah.
GenCon is a dreamscape. It doesn't exist. There is no way that GenCon can actually exist because there is no way that you will get onto a plane and arrive in a new location and meet over 100 people that you have only met otherwise on the internet up until that point. There is no way. Outside of GenCon, go to GenCon.
Absolutely.
Because that weird dream that you have of meeting all of your internet friends isn't just a reality. You are sharing your apartment with them. They message you at 1 a.m. being like, we're drunk as fuck. You up? They're like, yeah. Yes, I am. I'm the only one who is up, but yes, I am up.
I love how we're all like products of the generation that had to be told as kids, like, be careful who you talk to on the internet because people do horrible things with strangers on the internet. Like, you know, murder and kidnapping. But no.
I encourage half of my internet friends, like, fucking kidnap me. Do it. I dare you.
Get me away from this place. But no, it's just really sweet to actually be able to like see people that you know from the internet and find out that they're actually decent people and people that you want to continue to know and hang out with and make memories with.
I invited you all to my wedding for a reason. And then meeting you at GenCon was like, yep, I invited these people to my wedding. Fuck you. Like, solidified.
Yeah.
Actual good people. 10 out of 10 if you meet these people IRL, whether at GenCon or some other place. Befriend them.
Oh.
They're nice.
It was our second time going. We
was.
had the experience of going the first time. Is there anything that we would change?
I need to stop filling up my time slots so much. But like, you know, there's so many events that I just want to go to. So I fill up my wish list and then submit it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would recommend to people who either it's their second time, third time, first time, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you fill up slots. It doesn't matter if it just doesn't meet your time schedule. Don't go to it.
Oh,
That's it. Don't go to a game you feel
bad about.
Yeah, if you're not particularly excited about a panel, don't go to it
Don't go to it.
because like you've already heard Indoor and I talk about panels that we've gone to that we probably shouldn't have.
We went to panels that we went to just being like, okay.
Okay, I could probably figure out how to like make mysteries in D&D. Wait, you're not going to talk about that?
Oh, you're not going to talk about tabletop RPGs as a medium?
Oh, you can't
at
talk about
all?
that?
So I'm gonna go. Yeah, so my difference between Gen Con last year and Gen Con this year was last year I went to a lot more panels, and by the end of it I was like, God, I wish I had played more games.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year I went to less panels and focused my attention on, okay, these are games that I haven't got the chance to play yet, but I've heard good things about, so I'm going to give them a try. And I really enjoyed that approach. I think the only thing I would do differently next year, because my hope and wish and goal is to go to Gen Con again for my third year in a row, is to carve out more time to spend with friends.
Yeah.
Because the first year I was like, okay, I'm going to meet up with Connor, and that's pretty much it. But based off internet interactions that I've had with people, I've come to make a lot more friends through the TT RPG internet scape, and I was able to meet up with a lot of people the second year. But I felt like I had booked myself so much that my interactions were fleeting. So I would be like, okay, I can talk for like 15 minutes, but then I gotta go run to this thing. So doing like, as bad as it sounds, like even less, so I have more time to hang out, I feel like is my goal next year. So like more games of systems I want to try, but also like less games because I want to hang out, if that makes sense. That's my goal.
That's a lot better way of phrasing it than I did. But yeah, with that, that was GenCon. Hey, if you have thoughts about any con experiences that you have, any con horror stories, or just man, what was your favorite con experience? Comment, give it like, comment, and subscribe.
Ring that motherfucking bell.
Ding 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 that bell, but maybe don't because you'll get the live stream notifications too.
Ding the bell.
Go to ding dong bell. But yeah, Indoor, it was great having you on this episode. And
so lovely, so nice.
I love this. This is great. You guys are great. Excellent hosts. Booze was excellent. Gen Con was great. Say hi next year.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
We're going to shill all your stuff in the descriptions and everything.
Yep. Links are in the doobly-doo. Check out Indoor Adventure on twitch.tv/Indoor Adventures or on youtube.com/Indoor Adventures. Honestly, anything /Indoor Adventures except for Twitter where he's at Indoor WTF because he makes us say that a lot. So yeah, we'll see you guys next time.